What's up everyone, Kevin here, and I have another tutorial for you on the Domination Station. This one is regarding our new tournament mode option that we have added. And before I get into showing how it works, I want to kind of explain what it is. So tournament mode, the idea is when you're making multiple lineups, so this has nothing to do with optimizing an individual lineup. When you're making multiple lineups and you would like to spread your exposures out evenly, what tournament mode does is it works with our min-max settings in order, in a certain way, in a mathematical way, to basically force exposures to be spread out amongst the entire distribution of lineups. And I'm going to start by showing you an example of the problem that it's designed to solve. Okay, so I'm just going to start from scratch on this two-game slate. Two-game slate is perfect. We're just going to look at like NBA two-game slate from tonight's thing. All right, this is already in the books, so we could take a look, right? Now, in general, when you make a bunch of lineups, here we go. We'll just make a number, hit optimize, and start making lineups, right? Now, notice these two centers. They're both coming in at 100% exposure. Now, I might say, hey, that seems like a lot in GPP. I don't like to do 100% of anyone. All right, so maybe I want to cut these guys down. Let's call it 50% each, right? So I'm just going to show you real quick how that works. And first thing I'm actually going to do is jack up their exposures to make sure that these two players are showing up in every single lineup. So let's say I put a 50% limitation on Miles Turner and I put a 50% limitation on Clint Capella. I want you to observe what they do here in the exposures box. Now this is a normal optimized lineup. Here's what happens. Turner and Capella show up in the first 50% of lineups, and then equally they stop showing up. And I'm going to show you what this leads to in your distribution and why it's not good and what we resolved with it. So normally when I see this happening or they're showing up too much, the initial solution is don't limit their exposure, but rather start reducing the minutes, the points per minute, the projection, whatever it is, so that they actually only show up 50% of the time. So that's the ideal way to work it. You know, kind of massage the projections to get it to distribute evenly. But you know, let's say we don't have a lot of time for that right now. And you still have to do that a little bit. But, you know, the first thing you might reduce these numbers a little bit to try to get it lower. But I'm just going to show you an extreme example of where I didn't do that. All right, so now I flip it onto tournament mode. And I'm going to go, let's say, if you keep these two guys the same, tournament mode doesn't really work properly if the exposures are exactly the same because of the way the math is. So let's say I did 40% this guy and 55% Capella, right? And my idea is I don't want them showing up together in every single lineup, so let's take a look at what happens. Okay, ready? Here we go. Look at this. They're showing up in the distribution similarly to how their exposure percentages are set. They don't show up in every single lineup together. They do in some, but they don't in others. And it's evenly spread across the entire set of lineups. And that is the goal of the tournament mode. Now, there's one important thing to note. Again, because of the way math, you can't just go in and just set exposures on every single player. Like if you tried to do something like this, I'm going to show. Let's say you did. You know what? I don't want to have 100% exposure. Let's say I like to max out at 70% across the board. So I hit 70% across the board. Will this work? No. Can't create a valid lineup like that. So you can't just randomly go right now and set every single exposure below 100% because the math won't work like that. It can't even start with a player because you can't. It's just the way the algorithm is set up.